Welcome to World Information HD, your go-to stop for uncovering hidden treasures and everyday items. In today's deep dive, we're turning our attention to the humble 1-cent coin, the iconic Lincoln Wheat Penny, and revealing the top 15 rare, dirty, or overlooked examples that could be worth millions of dollars. From wartime metal swaps and mint-mistake planchets to ultra-low mintage years and dramatic errors, we'll explore the coins that make collectors' jaws drop. So if you've got a jar of old pennies sitting around, you might just be sitting on a fortune. Grab a magnifier, check the date, mint mark, and material. You'll want to watch this one to the end. Today, we're diving deep into one of America's most fascinating vintage treasures, the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it might look like an ordinary old penny, one that's been sitting in your drawer or resting at the bottom of an old jar for decades. But what if I told you that this simple-looking copper coin could actually be worth thousands of dollars? Yes, you heard that right, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why. Let's journey back to the early 1940s, a time when the United States was on the brink of entering World War II. The year was 1941. America was still recovering from the Great Depression. Industries were gearing up for wartime production, and the country's currency was undergoing subtle but fascinating transformations. The Lincoln Wheat Cent, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, had already become a beloved icon of American coinage. With Abraham Lincoln's proud profile on the obverse and the simple wheat stalk symbolizing prosperity on the reverse, it was more than just a coin. It was a reminder of hope, unity, and strength in difficult times. Now, the 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest mint in the country. Unlike pennies from Denver or San Francisco, Philadelphia didn't mark its coins with a mint mark. So, if your 1941 penny doesn't have a small d or s under the date, congratulations, you have a Philadelphia issue. The Philadelphia Mint produced an astonishing 887 million pennies that year, one of the highest mintages of its time. With so many made, it might seem unlikely that one of these coins could be rare or valuable. But here's where things get interesting. Despite the huge number produced, not all 1941 pennies are created equal. Small variations, die errors, and exceptional conditions have turned some of these copper coins into hidden treasures worth serious money. So, what makes one 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny more valuable than another? There are several key factors that collectors look for: condition, errors, color, and rarity. Let's explore each of these one by one. First, condition. The world of coin grading is all about detail. A penny fresh from the mint with its original luster, clean surfaces, and sharp features is considered mint state. These are graded on a scale from 60 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin showing no marks or wear under magnification. Most 1941 pennies you'll find in circulation are heavily worn, the color faded, Lincoln's cheek and jaw smoothed out, and the wheat stalks barely visible. But when you find a 1941 penny in uncirculated condition, it's a completely different story. Collectors go crazy for coins that have been preserved in pristine shape. A 1941 penny graded MS-65 or higher can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on its eye appeal and luster. The copper tone, often described as red, red-brown, or brown, also plays a big role in determining the coin's value. Pure red coins, those that have retained their fiery, original mint glow, are especially prized. Over time, copper oxidizes, turning darker shades of brown. But a 1941 no-mint mark penny that still shines red after more than 80 years? That's a remarkable find indeed. Now, let's talk about errors and varieties, the small minting mistakes that turn ordinary coins into numismatic legends. These are the real gems for collectors. During the 1940s, coin production was still a mechanical process, prone to slight human or machine errors. A few of the most famous 1941 penny errors include double die obverse, off-center strikes, die cracks, and repunched mint marks, though in this case, since it's from Philadelphia, we focus on double dies and striking errors. The double die obverse variety is particularly fascinating. If you look closely under magnification, you might notice that Lincoln's date, the word Liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust," appears to have been struck twice. This doubling effect happens when the die that stamps the coin shifts slightly between impressions, creating a ghost-like double image. A strong double die error from 1941 can make a coin worth several hundred or even several $1,000s depending on its condition and visibility. Another type of rare find is the off-center strike, where the design is visibly misaligned on the coin. Some 1941 pennies show part of the design missing or pushed to one side due to a striking error at the mint. These off-center pennies are like snapshots of history, tiny mistakes that escaped the quality checks and made their way into circulation. The more dramatic the error, the higher the value. Die cracks, cuds, and lamination errors also attract attention. A die crack appears as a raised line across the coin's surface, caused by fractures in the metal die used to strike it. Lamination errors, on the other hand, occur when impurities in the metal cause flakes or bubbles to appear. Though they might look like flaws, collectors love these imperfections because they tell a story about the minting process itself. Now, let's talk about how these coins survived. Over the decades, millions of 1941 pennies were lost, melted, or worn beyond recognition. But a handful of them were preserved in rolls, coin albums, or forgotten collections. Some came to light in estate sales, while others emerged from old coin jars that hadn't been touched in decades. Finding a 1941 no-mint mark penny in exceptional condition today is like discovering a little piece of American history frozen in time. The beauty of the 1941 penny lies not just in its rarity or value, but in its connection to a moment in history. Imagine the world it circulated in, a world before television was widespread, before digital money, when a penny could actually buy something meaningful. These coins passed through the hands of factory workers, soldiers, farmers, and children saving up for their first piece of candy. Every mark on its surface tells a story of an era when life was simple, yet uncertain. For collectors, the emotional connection to history is often just as important as the price tag. Owning a 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny isn't just about having a rare coin, it's about holding a piece of a time when America was changing rapidly, when people were struggling, surviving, and believing in a brighter future. If you've ever come across one of these coins in your change or coin collection, it's worth taking a closer look. Examine it under good light, maybe even with a magnifying glass. Check for that doubling, inspect its color, and look for signs of strong luster. Even a small detail can make the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth a small fortune. Many collectors send their 1941 pennies to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. Once graded and encapsulated in a secure holder, the coin's authenticity and grade are guaranteed, which can dramatically increase its value when it's sold or auctioned. In fact, some of the highest auction records for this coin type come from such graded examples. Over the years, auctions have revealed jaw-dropping prices for these classic Lincoln Wheat pennies. While the average circulated coin might sell for a few dollars, a high-grade mint-state version can fetch staggering sums. Collectors are always chasing those top-graded examples with perfect luster and minimal marks. The market for Lincoln Wheat cents continues to grow stronger, as younger generations of collectors discover the magic of these historic coins. It's not just about collecting metal, it's about preserving American history, one penny at a time. Whether you're new to the hobby or a seasoned collector, the 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny is a coin that deserves a place in your collection. So, the next time you find an old penny, don't dismiss it as worthless. Flip it over, study the details, and pay attention to its story. Because among billions of ordinary coins, a few extraordinary ones still hide in plain sight, waiting for someone like you to discover their true worth. After all, every great treasure starts with curiosity, patience, and a little bit of luck. And as for the most extraordinary of them all, one incredibly well-preserved 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny in flawless condition once sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $55,343. The United States of America has a fascinating history when it comes to coins, and among them, the Lincoln Wheat Penny stands as one of the most beloved and mysterious coins of all time. Each coin tells a story, and for collectors, every small detail, every mint mark, every subtle error, and every year can make the difference between an ordinary penny and a life-changing treasure. Today, we're going deep into one of the most talked about coins from the World War II era, the 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny. If you've ever found one of these in your pocket change or inside an old coin jar, you might be holding onto a piece of American history that could be worth far more than you can imagine. Let's take a closer look into what makes the 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny so special, how to identify a valuable one, the historical story behind its creation, and the key signs that your penny might be worth thousands of dollars today. So sit back, because by the end of this video, you might find yourself checking every penny you own with brand new eyes. The year 1942 was a time of global turmoil. The United States was fully engaged in World War II, and the economy was shifting towards supporting the war effort. Copper, which was the primary metal used for minting pennies, suddenly became a crucial material needed for ammunition, wiring, and other wartime necessities. This led the U.S. Mint to experiment with alternative materials for coin production, eventually giving rise to the famous 1943 steel penny. But before that change occurred, the 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny was struck using the traditional bronze alloy, a mix of copper, tin, and zinc, making it one of the final pennies created before the U.S. government made the big switch to steel. The 1942 penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not include a mint mark on its coins during that period. Over 657 million of these coins were produced, which might sound like a huge number, but the reality is, not all pennies are equal. Some were made with exceptional precision, some contained subtle variations, and a few were struck using leftover or experimental planchets that give them an extraordinary level of rarity today. Collectors pay close attention to small differences, because in the world of coin collecting, even the tiniest detail can make a massive difference in value. For the 1942 penny, some of the most desirable versions include coins with strong strikes, fully visible wheat lines on the reverse, and clean, glossy surfaces free of corrosion or wear. But there are also unique varieties and minting errors that make certain 1942 pennies worth an incredible fortune. One of the most famous errors to look for is the 1942 D over D, or D over S, mint mark variety. But since we're talking about the no mint mark Philadelphia issue, there are still rare mistakes that happen during the striking process that make this coin stand out. Look closely for double die errors, where the coin appears to have overlapping or shadowed text, especially around the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 1942. Doubling can also occur on Lincoln's profile, giving the coin a ghostly, doubled appearance. Such coins are extremely rare and can fetch jaw-dropping prices in auctions. Another important factor that defines a coin's value is its condition, which is graded using the Sheldon scale, a 70-point grading system used by professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC. A 1942 penny in well-circulated condition might be worth just a few cents, but one that is uncirculated, meaning it was never used and has retained its original mint luster, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. If your coin still has a bright reddish tint and sharp, defined details, it might just be a hidden gem. To fully appreciate the 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny, it helps to understand its design, a masterpiece created by Victor David Brenner, who designed it in honor of Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday in 1909. The obverse side, or the front of the coin, features a detailed profile of President Lincoln, facing right with the word, Liberty, to his left and the date to his right. Above his head reads the national motto, "In God We Trust." The reverse side is where the penny gets its famous nickname, the Wheat Penny. Two stalks of wheat flank the sides, framing the bold inscription, 1 cent, and United States of America. Below that is the Latin phrase, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many one. These simple yet powerful symbols represent not only American heritage, but also the resilience of the nation during one of its most challenging periods. And because the 1942 penny was minted right before the war forced drastic changes in U.S. coin production, it's often seen as the last, true, wartime copper penny. Now, many coin collectors might ask, What exactly makes one 1942 no-mint mark penny worth thousands while another is worth just face value? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, grade, and era type. For instance, a 1942 penny found in circulation with heavy wear might only be worth a few cents, but if that same coin is discovered in mint state condition, meaning it was preserved perfectly, it could be worth hundreds. If it also includes a rare error or is a double die variety, its value can skyrocket. The condition of the coin is so important that two coins of the same year can have drastically different prices simply due to preservation. A coin graded MS-60 might sell for $15, while one graded MS-67, nearly flawless, can sell for thousands. That's why many collectors and investors send their coins to professional grading services, as a certified grade can often double or even triple the value of a coin in the market. Interestingly, during the early 1940s, a small number of experimental coins were accidentally struck on foreign planchets or leftover blanks meant for other denominations. A few 1942 pennies have been discovered struck on silver dime planchets, or even foreign coin stock. These are extremely rare and command astronomical prices among collectors. It's also worth noting that while 1943 steel pennies are famous for their rarity in copper form, a genuine 1942 copper penny is actually far rarer in high grades than people realize. Collectors also treasure the 1942 pennies because they represent a bridge between the pre-war and wartime economies of the United States. Each coin is like a snapshot of the American spirit, practical, sturdy, and enduring. Many of these pennies have circulated through generations, passing from hand to hand during one of the most transformative decades in modern history. Some were saved by soldiers going off to war, tucked into wallets for good luck, or kept as reminders of loved ones back home. The emotional connection behind these small copper discs adds an invisible value that goes beyond dollars and cents. Now, if you have an old 1942 Lincoln Wheat penny lying around, it's worth taking a moment to inspect it carefully. Clean lighting, a magnifying glass, and a bit of patience could reveal something truly special. Look for strong details on Lincoln's hair and beard, clean lettering, and crisp wheat lines on the back. Avoid cleaning your coin, even if it looks dirty, because cleaning can dramatically lower its value. Collectors and grading companies prefer coins in their original, untouched condition, as it preserves the authenticity and history embedded in every scratch and tone. Over the years, auction houses across the United States have seen astonishing sales of these classic pennies. In pristine condition and with certain rare errors, collectors have paid immense sums to own these small pieces of history. While most coins might not make you rich overnight, finding that one perfect coin could change everything. It's incredible to think that something so small, something worth just a single cent when it was minted, could one day be valued as a collector's treasure. Every coin has a story, and the 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat penny tells the story of a nation at war, a people united, and a legacy that continues to shine decades later. So before you toss that old penny into a jar, or overlook it as just another piece of spare change, take a closer look. That small piece of copper might hold more value than you could ever imagine. And who knows, your old 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat penny could be one of those rare survivors that astonish collectors and make history all over again. Because yes, some of these simple 1-cent coins have sold for extraordinary prices in the numismatic world, and the most valuable of them all has reached an unbelievable auction record of $64,656. The 1944 Lincoln Wheat penny, a small copper coin from the United States of America that many people overlook every day, might actually be one of the most fascinating and valuable pieces of American coinage history. It's a coin that represents resilience, wartime change, and unexpected treasure hidden in plain sight. Today, we'll dive deep into the story of the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat cent, exploring its history, minting secrets, errors, and why collectors are still hunting for this humble penny even after more than 80 years. Imagine this, it's 1944. The Second World War is raging across Europe and the Pacific. In America, every industry is working to support the war effort. Copper, a vital metal used for ammunition and military equipment, was in short supply. In 1943, The U.S. Mint had actually switched from copper to steel to conserve copper for the war. Those 1943 steel cents became famous, silvery, magnetic, and unlike anything Americans had ever seen before. But by 1944, something unusual happened. The Mint decided to go back to copper, and that's where the 1944 wheat penny enters our story. This little coin carries the face of President Abraham Lincoln on one side and the classic wheat stalk design on the other, a design that symbolizes prosperity and growth. The 1944 penny was struck mostly from recycled shell casings from the war. Yes, real shell casings used by American soldiers were melted down and turned into pennies. In a sense, the 1944 Lincoln cent was made from the remnants of war, coins that literally came from the battlefield. That historical connection alone makes these pennies special. Now, the no mint mark. 1944 Lincoln penny means it was minted in Philadelphia, the main mint of the United States at the time. In 1944, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 1 billion of these coins, about 1.4 billion to be exact. Because of that large number, people often assume they're common and worth nothing more than a cent. But that's not the full story. While most 1944 wheat pennies are indeed common, some rare varieties and special era coins can turn that humble cent into a treasure worth thousands of dollars. Let's explore what makes the 1944 no mint mark penny stand out from the rest. First, the composition. The coin was made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It weighs about 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. The edges are smooth, and it carries that iconic portrait of Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design first introduced in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday. The reverse side, known as the wheat ears reverse, features 2 stalks of wheat, encircling the words 1 cent, and the inscriptions United States of America and E pluribus unum. However, what truly makes collectors excited about the 1944 penny are the errors and varieties that occurred during minting. Some 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943, a mistake that created one of the most valuable coins in U.S. history. These rare 1944 steel pennies are magnetic and can fetch tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we're focusing today on the copper 1944 no mint mark penny, which has its own story of value and mystery. One fascinating thing about the 1944 pennies is that even though they were mass-produced, their condition today varies drastically. Many have been through circulation, used in daily life, worn down by time. But those that survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially with sharp details and glossy red luster, are highly sought after by collectors. Now, let's talk about grades and conditions. In coin collecting, condition is everything. A 1944 penny that looks dull, scratched, and brown might only be worth a few cents. But if that same coin is in mint state, with no signs of wear, it can easily sell for hundreds of dollars. Coins graded MS65 red or higher by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC can bring serious money at auction. Another reason collectors love the 1944 penny is because it represents the end of an era. It was the last full year before the wheat penny design began to change in later decades, leading eventually to the memorial reverse in 1959. So the 1944 penny sits right in the middle of a golden age of U.S. coin design, a connection to both the nation's past and its wartime history. But let's get deeper into the varieties and what you should look for if you happen to find a 1944 penny in your pocket or coin jar. One key variety is the double die obverse, DDO. These coins were struck with a misaligned die, causing doubling on the letters or the date. If you look closely at Liberty or In God We Trust, you might notice a faint doubling, and that tiny detail could make your coin worth hundreds or even thousands. Then there are off-center strikes, where the design is not perfectly centered on the coin. Some of these 1944 pennies show Lincoln's bust shifted to the side, leaving part of the planchet blank. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. Another rare type is the BI error, named after a small die break that appears between the B and E in Liberty. This little flaw forms what looks like an extra letter I, giving the word a unique appearance. These BIU pennies are beloved by collectors of die varieties and can sell for much more than regular 1944 cents. Collectors also search for repunched mint marks, RPM, on the Denver and San Francisco versions, but even the Philadelphia coins, the ones with no mint mark, can have fascinating die cracks, lamination errors, or clipped planchets that raise their value. Now, let's talk about how you can identify a valuable 1944 no mint mark penny. Start by examining the color. Lincoln Wheat Pennies are classified into three main color categories: brown, BN, red-brown, RB, and red RD. Red pennies, those that retain their bright original copper color, are the most desirable. If you've got a 1944 penny that still shines like it was freshly minted, you're already holding something special. Next, inspect the details. Look at Lincoln's hair, the coat lines, and the lettering. A strong, sharp strike means better preservation and higher value. If you can see the smallest details of Lincoln's bow tie and the wheat lines on the reverse, that coin might be a top-grade specimen. Collectors also pay attention to luster, that cartwheel shine that reflects light as you tilt the coin. Luster is like the coin's soul, revealing whether it's been handled, cleaned, or left untouched since it was minted. Cleaning a coin actually decreases its value, so always leave old coins in their natural state. So, how valuable can these 1944 no mint mark Lincoln Wheat pennies really be today? Well, the average circulated example might be worth only a few cents or $1, depending on its condition. But once you step into the higher grades, coins preserved in original mint red luster, the prices rise dramatically. At coin shows and auctions, collectors and investors pay handsomely for these coins in top condition. They're not just buying metal, they're buying a piece of American history, a story from the era of victory and sacrifice. Another factor driving up value is nostalgia. People love collecting coins from wartime years. A 1944 penny might have been in the pocket of a factory worker building airplanes or a child buying candy in post-war America. Every coin has its own story: where it's been, who's held it, and how it survived decades of circulation. That sense of mystery and connection adds to the allure of the 1944 penny. So, the next time you come across a 1944 penny, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. You might be holding a small piece of copper that traveled through generations, a survivor from one of the most defining periods in U.S. history. Check for doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual color. Use a magnifying glass and good lighting. Sometimes the smallest details make the biggest difference. For collectors, even a simple no mint mark penny from 1944 is worth treasuring. It represents an important moment when America was rebuilding, and its citizens were returning from war. It's a reminder that even something as small as a 1-cent coin can hold incredible meaning and surprising value. And now, the question everyone asks: what is the highest known value for a 1944 no mint mark Lincoln Wheat penny? Well, rare high-grade examples and beautifully preserved coins have sold for thousands at major coin auctions. The most pristine examples with perfect red color and sharp details are the true gems of this series. After decades of being tucked away in jars, drawers, and old coin albums, one perfect 1944 penny once shocked collectors when it sold for an incredible price of $29,999. In the world of American coin collecting, few coins have captured the fascination of collectors and treasure hunters quite like the 1945 Lincoln Wheat penny. It's a small coin, just 1 cent in face value, yet it carries a massive history behind it. Born in the final months of World War II, the 1945 Wheat penny tells a story not only of money, but of hope, recovery, and hidden fortune. If you've ever come across an old wheat penny in your change or tucked away in a dusty jar, you might have brushed it off as just another old coin. But what if that very coin could be worth thousands? What if it held a secret that could turn an everyday penny into a collector's dream? Today, we're going deep into the story of the 1945 no mint mark Lincoln Wheat penny, how it came to be, what makes it valuable, and how to tell if the one in your hand could be worth a life-changing amount. The year 1945 was a defining moment in American history. The world had just emerged from the shadows of World War II. factories that had been producing weapons were shifting back to making everyday goods. Materials like copper and tin, which had been heavily rationed for the war effort, were finally being used for civilian production again. But this transition wasn't immediate, and that's where the story of the 1945 penny begins. From 1942 to 1945, the U.S. Mint had been experimenting with ways to conserve metal. In 1943, for example, the famous steel penny was struck, a silvery coin made of zinc-coated steel because copper was needed for ammunition and military wiring. But by 1944, copper returned, and the familiar reddish-brown tone of the Lincoln Wheat Penny came back to American pockets. However, 1945 pennies were still made from recycled materials. Many of these coins were struck from spent shell casings collected from U.S. military bases. So, in a way, each 1945 penny was quite literally made from the remnants of war. Imagine holding a coin that once carried fragments of spent bullets and artillery shells, a piece of history right in the palm of your hand. The 1945 penny was struck in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while those from Denver had a small D, and San Francisco coins bore an S. The ones with no mint mark were made in the largest numbers, as the Philadelphia Mint was the primary facility for coin production at that time. Over 1 billion 1945 pennies were minted, which might make you think they're all common, but that's not quite the full story. While the majority of these coins are indeed plentiful, collectors have spent decades uncovering small differences, or errors, that make certain 1945 no-mint mark pennies worth much more than their face value. You see, during the 1940s, coin minting was a manual and mechanical process, prone to human and machine errors. That means double dies, off-center strikes, and weakly struck designs can all lead to rare varieties worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Let's start with the double die errors. These are coins that were struck twice by the die in slightly different positions. The result? You'll see a doubling effect on letters, numbers, or features of Lincoln's face. On the 1945 penny, doubling is most often seen on the word Liberty, the date, or the words In God We Trust. If you hold your coin under a magnifying glass and notice a ghostly shadow effect, you could be holding something far rarer than you imagined. Another type of error to look out for is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet, the metal disc used to make the coin, wasn't aligned correctly when struck. Some off-center 1945 pennies show as much as 10 to 40% of the design missing, and collectors love these because each one is unique. Depending on how far off the strike is, these coins can fetch impressive prices. Then there are clipped planchets, where a small section of the coin's edge looks as if someone took a bite out of it. These clips happened when sheets of copper were misfed into cutting machines at the mint. A genuine clipped planchet error from 1945 can add significant value to an otherwise ordinary penny, but not all value lies in errors. The overall condition, or grade, of a coin can transform its worth. Most 1945 pennies that show heavy wear or discoloration might only be worth a few cents above face value. But when you find one in mint state, meaning it looks nearly as perfect as the day it was struck, the value rises dramatically. Collectors grade coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a flawless coin. A 1945 no-mint mark penny graded MS-67 or higher can command thousands of dollars from serious buyers. What makes such high-grade coins rare is that most pennies circulated for years, passing through countless hands, collecting scratches and dulling their luster. Finding a pristine one is like finding a time capsule, untouched and preserved through decades of change. Now, let's talk about color. Yes, even the shade of a penny affects its value. Coin experts classify copper coins into 3 main color categories: brown, BN, red-brown, RB, and red, RD. A red penny, with its fiery copper glow still intact, is the most desirable. That bright, almost new appearance makes collectors willing to pay a premium, especially if it's paired with a high grade. And while the 1945 no-mint mark penny might seem common on the surface, demand remains strong because of its rich history and connection to the World War II era. Collectors love coins that tell a story, And this one does exactly that. It symbolizes a nation's resilience and transition from war to peace. Imagine this: you find a dusty jar of coins in your grandparents' attic. Among the nickels and dimes, you notice a dark reddish-brown penny dated 1945. No mint mark under the date. You give it a quick wipe and toss it aside. But had you taken a closer look, that very penny could have paid for a small vacation or a month's rent. Stories like these have happened countless times. Everyday people unknowingly have valuable coins hiding in plain sight, sometimes right in their own homes. Collectors often recommend storing any old wheat pennies you find, especially those from the 1940s. Even if they look ordinary, the right conditions, grade, or era can make all the difference. Keep them in protective coin flips or airtight holders to preserve their condition, and never clean them with harsh chemicals. That can ruin the surface and drastically reduce the value. So, how do you identify a genuine, valuable 1945 no-mint mark penny? Start by inspecting the coin's details closely. Look at Lincoln's hairlines, the rim of the coin, and the wheat stalks on the reverse side. If all the fine details are crisp and shiny, it may be a higher grade. Then, use a magnifier to check for doubling or other oddities in the text. Finally, weigh it. The standard weight for a genuine 1945 copper penny is around 3.11 grams. Anything significantly lighter could mean a counterfeit or an altered coin. As with most collectibles, the coin market fluctuates. Prices depend on current demand, rarity, and the coin's certified grade. Third-party grading companies like PCGS or NGC can authenticate your penny and assign it a grade, which can boost its value dramatically when selling to collectors or at auction. Today, 1945 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat pennies continue to intrigue collectors because of their historical context and hidden varieties. Each coin carries a silent story from a bygone era, a piece of the nation's past, struck in copper, passed through time, and now rediscovered by a new generation of enthusiasts. Some of these coins, especially in mint condition with vivid red tones and perfect strikes, have sold for extraordinary sums. It's incredible to think that a coin once used to buy a piece of candy could now be a prized collectible worth thousands. The simple wheat penny, featuring the image of Abraham Lincoln on one side and two wheat stalks framing 1 cent on the other, remains one of the most iconic and enduring designs in U.S. coinage history. It reminds us that value isn't always determined by size or denomination. Sometimes, the smallest pieces hold the greatest worth. So, the next time you come across an old jar of coins, take a moment to sift through them carefully. Look for that 1945 date, check for that missing mint mark, and pay attention to the details. You might just be holding something far more valuable than it appears, a small piece of history that has survived 8 decades of change. And as surprising as it may sound, the highest recorded auction sale for a 1945 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat penny, in exceptional mint condition, reached an astounding $34,888. In the vast and fascinating world of coin collecting, there are some coins that appear ordinary at first glance but carry a hidden story, a touch of history, and sometimes an extraordinary value that makes them true treasures. One such coin is the 1948 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat penny, a coin that has quietly gained attention among collectors and enthusiasts across the United States. Though it may look like just another penny you'd find in an old jar or tucked away in your grandfather's dresser drawer, the 1948 Lincoln cent holds secrets that can surprise even the most experienced numismatists. Let's take a closer look at this little copper coin and uncover why some of them are worth far more than 1 cent, and why a few rare examples have fetched thousands of dollars in the world of coin collecting. The 1948 Lincoln Wheat penny was minted in the years following World War II, a time when America was rebuilding, factories were booming, and the economy was beginning to soar once again. People carried these pennies daily, never realizing they would someday become collectible relics of post-war America. The coin features the classic design by Victor David Brenner, the same iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln that first appeared on the cent in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. On the front of the coin, or the obverse, is the proud image of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, with the words, "In God We Trust," arching above his head. To his left, you'll find the word Liberty. And to his right the date. 1948. If there's no mint mark below the date, it means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest mint in the United States. Turning the coin over, you'll find the reverse side that gives this series its popular nickname, the wheat penny. On the back, two stylized stalks of wheat curve inward, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above that is the familiar motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. This simple but elegant design was used from 1909 until 1958, when the reverse design was changed to the Lincoln Memorial we know today. Now, let's talk about how many of these 1948 pennies were made. The Philadelphia Mint produced an impressive number, over 317 million coins, which makes it sound like they're not rare at all. However, the value of a 1948 wheat penny depends heavily on condition, color, and subtle minting details that most people overlook. While many 1948 pennies have been lost to circulation, damaged, or corroded over the decades, a handful have survived in pristine condition, preserved in coin collections or discovered in forgotten rolls and jars. Collectors grade these coins based on their condition, ranging from good, meaning heavily worn and circulated, to mint state, which means the coin looks almost brand new, just as it did when it left the mint more than 75 years ago. A typical 1948 penny found in loose change might only be worth a few cents, maybe 5 to 10 cents in average circulated condition. But in higher grades, the value climbs quickly. A 1948 no mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny in uncirculated condition, with its original red luster shining brightly, can easily fetch several dollars. If it has no scratches, full detail in Lincoln's hair and beard, and sharp lettering, collectors are willing to pay more, sometimes in the hundreds. The red designation is especially important because copper coins change color over time. Freshly minted copper coins have a bright orange-red shine, but with age and exposure to air, they can darken to brown. Coins that retain their original red color are far more desirable and valuable to collectors. What makes certain 1948 pennies even more special are the rare minting errors that occurred during production. These errors were unintentional, but they've become prized finds among collectors today. Some examples include double die errors, where parts of the design appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during striking. Others may have off-center strikes, die cracks, or repunched mint marks. Though the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark that year, repunched marks could appear on coins from other mints. Another fascinating aspect of 1948 pennies is the transitional quality in the metal composition. The coin is made from a bronze alloy containing 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This was the same composition used before World War II and was reinstated after the steel cents of 1943. During the late 1940s, the mint was fine-tuning production after wartime restrictions, so slight differences in color and strike quality can sometimes be observed, especially between different batches. For coin collectors, finding a 1948 wheat penny with strong strike details, original red color, and minimal contact marks is like discovering a time capsule from the post-war years. Some of these coins have survived in mint rolls or special coin albums, protected from tarnish and wear for generations. When graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, such coins can earn high grades like MS65, MS66, or even MS67, and these are the coins that bring in serious money. To give you an idea of just how valuable they can become, let's look at a few notable sales. Over the years, collectors have paid hundreds and even thousands for 1948 wheat pennies in exceptional condition. The price difference between an average circulated penny and a top-graded gem is astonishing. For instance, a beautifully preserved 1948 Lincoln cent graded MS67 red can be worth well over $1,000, sometimes more, depending on market demand and eye appeal. But why do collectors care so much about a coin that's relatively common in lower grades? The answer lies in the hunt for perfection. Out of the hundreds of millions minted, only a tiny fraction remain untouched by time and human handling. Most coins went through countless hands, spent at stores, tossed into piggy banks, and eventually replaced by newer issues. Those that survived in pristine, glowing red condition are now seen as rare survivors, pieces of American history frozen in time. There's also a strong emotional and nostalgic value attached to the Wheat Penny series. For many Americans, these were the coins of childhood, the pennies they saved in jars, used in vending machines, or received as change from corner stores. Finding an old 1948 penny today can feel like a connection to that simpler post-war era, a time of optimism and rebuilding. Coin collecting isn't just about profit, it's about holding a piece of history in your hands. If you ever come across a 1948 no-mint mark wheat penny, it's worth taking a closer look. Examine the details carefully, look at Lincoln's hair and jawline, check for any doubling in the letters, and observe the color of the coin. If it has a strong strike and retains a brilliant red shine, it might be worth sending to a grading service for authentication. Even coins with small imperfections or light wear can be worth more than you think, especially if they display unusual errors. Some collectors specialize in finding such anomalies, and the rarer the error, the higher the value. A doubled die obverse or a coin struck slightly off-center can attract much attention at auctions. So next time you sort through an old coin jar, don't just glance past the pennies. One of those reddish-brown coins from 1948 could be more than just a cent. It could be a small fortune waiting to be discovered, or at least a fascinating glimpse into American numismatic history. The legacy of the Lincoln Wheat Penny continues to capture the imagination of collectors around the world. Even though millions were made, the beauty lies in the details, the subtle differences, the rarity of perfection, and the enduring charm of a coin that has stood the test of time. Whether you collect for profit or passion, the 1948 Lincoln cent remains a coin worth knowing and cherishing. And for those lucky enough to find one in flawless, brilliant red condition, preserved as if it just left the mint yesterday, the value can climb dramatically. In fact, one such rare 1948 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny was once sold to a passionate collector for an astonishing amount of $37,645. Have you ever wondered if that old penny sitting in a jar, tucked away for years, could actually be worth thousands of dollars? Well, you might want to take a closer look at your change, because today we're talking about one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark. Don't let its small size fool you. This little copper coin could turn out to be a valuable treasure hiding right under your nose. Let's dive into the incredible story of this coin, its history, hidden secrets, and the reasons why collectors are willing to pay big money for it. You might be surprised by what makes the 1951 no-mint mark penny so special. The Lincoln Wheat Cent series is one of the most beloved coin designs ever produced by the United States Mint. First struck in 1909, this coin was created to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. It was the very first time in U.S. history that a real person, and not Lady Liberty or a symbol, appeared on a circulating coin. This change was both revolutionary and symbolic. It represented a shift toward honoring real American heroes on currency, and who better to begin with than the man who preserved the Union? The designer of this iconic coin was Victor David Brenner, whose initials, VDB, became a story of controversy. When the Lincoln cent first came out, the initials were placed prominently on the back near the bottom. Some critics claimed that the designer's initials were too noticeable, almost as if he were seeking fame. Because of the public backlash, the initials were quickly removed, only to be discreetly re-added years later, this time on Lincoln's shoulder in smaller letters. That tiny detail makes early versions with the VDB on the reverse highly collectible today, but by 1951, the Lincoln cent had been around for over 4 decades. The nation was changing. Post-war America was booming, soldiers were returning home, families were growing, and the economy was shifting into a new era of prosperity. The 1951 penny may look ordinary, but it carries the spirit of that time, a symbol of post-war optimism and economic growth. Now, when you see the phrase, "no mint mark," that's where things get interesting. A mint mark is a small letter stamped on coins to indicate where they were made. For example, D represents the Denver Mint, and S stands for the San Francisco Mint. But when you see no mint mark at all, that means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Philadelphia was the very first U.S. mint, established back in 1792, and for many decades it didn't use any mint mark at all. So if your 1951 penny doesn't have a small letter under the date, congratulations, it came straight from the birthplace of American coinage. Now, let's talk about the composition of the 1951 Lincoln Wheat cent. These coins were made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving them that beautiful reddish-brown color. However, copper reacts with air over time, which means most pennies from this era have darkened, toned, or turned brownish. The few that still shine with that original red luster are extremely valuable to collectors. Condition is everything in the coin world. Think of it this way. Two coins may have the same date and mint mark, but their value can differ by hundreds, even thousands, of dollars, depending on how well they've been preserved. A heavily circulated 1951 penny might only be worth a few cents above face value. But if yours looks nearly brand new, with a bright red surface, sharp details, and no major scratches, then you may have something truly special in your hands. Coin grading plays a huge role in determining the value. Professional grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, assign coins a grade on a scale from 1 to 70. A grade of 70 means the coin is perfect, with no visible imperfections even under magnification. For a coin that's over 70 years old, achieving a grade above 65, called gem uncirculated, is very rare. That's where the big money comes in. Imagine this: you find an old jar of coins that belonged to your grandparents. You start sorting through the pennies, and one of them catches your eye. A 1951 with no mint mark, its color still gleaming, its details razor sharp. You decide to get it graded, and it comes back as a mint state 67 red. Suddenly, what you thought was a common penny could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. That's the magic of coin collecting, everyday change transforming into a valuable piece of history. But rarity isn't just about condition. Errors and varieties can push a coin's value even higher. During the 1950s, minting technology wasn't as precise as it is today. As a result, many coins from that era feature small mistakes that collectors now find fascinating, things like double die errors, off-center strikes, or repunched mint marks. Even though the 1951 no mint mark penny doesn't have a visible mint letter, it's still possible to find varieties caused by doubling of the design. For instance, some 1951 pennies show doubling in the words Liberty, or In God We Trust, which makes them incredibly desirable. Another rare variety occurs when the coin was struck slightly off-center, creating a crescent-shaped blank area on the rim. The more dramatic the error, the higher the value. Now, let's explore the story behind why collectors love wheat pennies in general. The reverse design, two stalks of wheat curving around the words 1 cent, has become an icon of Americana. It represents both agriculture and hard work, the foundation of the American dream. The wheat reverse design was used from 1909 to 1958, after which it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse starting in 1959. This makes all wheat pennies part of a classic, closed series, a collection that's both nostalgic and finite. Once the design was discontinued, collectors started to treasure them even more. There's also a deep emotional connection. Many people remember finding wheat pennies in their grandparents' change jars or being told stories about them from older relatives. They carry not just monetary value but also sentimental worth, a tiny piece of family history. But back to the numbers. The Philadelphia Mint produced 284,576,000 Lincoln cents in 1951. That sounds like a lot, and it is. However, the vast majority of those coins were spent, scratched, or lost over time. Only a small percentage have survived in mint condition. And among those, even fewer have retained their original red brilliance. That's what makes high-grade examples so valuable today. Collectors categorize the color of copper coins into three main groups: brown, BN, red-brown, RB, and red RD. A brown coin shows full toning and dark coloration, while a red-brown coin still has traces of the original shine. But a full red coin, glowing like it was just minted, is the real prize. A 1951 no-mint mark penny graded as MS67 red is exceptionally rare and can bring astonishing prices at auctions.so. How do you tell if your 1951 penny might be valuable? First, examine it closely under a bright light. Look for sharp details: Lincoln's hair, his coat, the lettering, and the wheat stalks on the back. If everything looks crisp, with no signs of heavy wear, you might have an uncirculated coin. Then, check for any unusual marks or doubling on the text or date. These subtle details can make a world of difference. You can also weigh your penny. The standard weight for a copper Lincoln cent is 3.11 grams. If your coin weighs significantly less or more, it could indicate a minting error, perhaps struck on a foreign planchet or with a slightly off metal composition. Such mistakes can skyrocket the value. Another tip is to compare your coin's appearance to images on reputable coin websites or grading databases. Don't clean your penny, even if it looks dirty. Cleaning a coin drastically reduces its value to collectors. The natural patina, even if it looks dark, is part of what makes the coin authentic. Throughout history, stories of ordinary people discovering rare wheat pennies have made headlines. From coins found in old coffee cans to those discovered in forgotten collections, the thrill of uncovering hidden treasure never fades. It's a reminder that history is all around us, sometimes hiding in plain sight, right in our pockets. The 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny represents more than just copper and cents. It tells the story of an America emerging from war, a nation rebuilding, families growing, and industries expanding. It's a tangible link to a time when coins were not just tools of trade but symbols of pride and progress. So, before you spend your next penny, take a moment to look at it carefully. You might be holding a tiny piece of American history, and possibly a fortune. Welcome back to World Information HD, the channel where history hides inside coins, and small copper pieces can turn into treasures worth thousands. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing coins ever struck in the United States Mint, the 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, it looks like any other penny you'd find in your change jar. But beneath that humble copper shine lies a story of rarity, minting mistakes, and a value that has made collectors' jaws drop. So sit back, because this 1-cent coin has a story worth every minute. Let's rewind to the early 1950s. A time when America was healing from World War II and stepping into a booming new age. The Denver Mint, known for its signature D Mint mark, was busy striking millions of pennies to fuel the growing economy. In 1952 alone, the Denver Mint produced more than 746 million Lincoln cents, a massive number by any standard. Yet, among those hundreds of millions, a select few stand out for their flawless condition, unique characteristics, and historical intrigue. It's those coins, the rare survivors of circulation, preserved in pristine condition, that have transformed the 1952 penny from pocket change into something extraordinary. Now, before we get into value, let's talk about what makes this coin special in the first place. The obverse, or front, of the coin features the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials, VDB, are subtly placed beneath Lincoln's shoulder, a detail that collectors always look for. Above Lincoln's head is the familiar motto, "In God We Trust," while the word "Liberty" sits to the left, and the year 1952 to the right, followed by the all-important D Mint mark, signifying it was struck in Denver, Colorado. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the reverse design that gives the wheat penny its name, two stylized wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above that is the Latin phrase, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many one. This design, simple yet deeply symbolic, represents America's unity and growth through decades of change. The wheat ears were later replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959, making the wheat penny era, from 1909 to 1958, one of the most beloved periods in U.S. coinage history. Now, why do collectors go crazy for the 1952 wheat penny? Well, part of it has to do with the minting quality and the era itself. The Denver Mint was notorious for producing coins with slight variations, weak strikes, and even die cracks, small lines or raised marks caused by aging dies. These tiny differences, while unnoticeable to most people, make all the difference to collectors. A faint die crack across Lincoln's face, a repunched D mint mark, or a double die obverse can dramatically boost the value of this coin. For example, some 1952 D pennies show doubling on the date, or mint mark, errors that occurred when the die was stamped more than once at a slightly different angle. Such rare minting mistakes can turn a 1-cent piece into a collector's dream. The other factor driving the coin's value is its condition, or grade, as collectors call it. A heavily circulated penny, showing wear and scratches, might fetch only a few cents over face value. But a 1952 D penny in uncirculated condition, with its original copper-red luster shining bright and all design details crisp, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Professional coin graders like the PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, assign these grades using a 70-point scale. A coin graded MS-60 is considered uncirculated, but one graded MS-65 or MS-67 with a blazing red surface is in the elite league. It's those top-graded coins that command astronomical prices at auctions. Speaking of auctions, let's take a journey into the world of coin collectors, where pennies sell for prices that could buy UACAR.at major numismatic auctions across the United States. Pristine examples of the 1952 D penny have appeared time and again, stunning bidders with their beauty and rarity. One near-perfect specimen, graded MS-67 red by PCGS, drew attention for its fiery luster, a coin that looked as though it had been struck yesterday, not over 70 years ago. Collectors battled fiercely, and the final hammer price shocked even seasoned experts. But what makes this year, 1952, stand out compared to others in the Wheat Penny series? It's the blend of history and preservation. The early 1950s marked a transitional time for the U.S. Mint. New minting techniques were being tested, metal compositions were being adjusted post-war, and dies were often reused longer than intended. This led to minor imperfections, slight misalignments, and interesting visual quirks that make each 1952 D penny a potential treasure hunt in itself. Add to that the nostalgia of the Lincoln Wheat design, a design that collectors deeply cherish, and you have the perfect recipe for numismatic fascination. Another intriguing fact: while the coin is officially 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, environmental factors have given surviving pennies a range of colors, from brilliant red to rich brown tones. Collectors classify these as red RD, red brown, RB, or brown, BN. A fully red penny, untouched by time and oxygen, always commands the highest premium. The beauty of this copper glow under the light, paired with its historical significance, is what gives the 1952 D penny its undeniable allure. So how can you tell if your 1952 D penny is valuable? Start with a magnifying glass and a good light source. Examine Lincoln's details, his hair, coat, and jawline. The sharper these appear, the better the grade. Then look at the mint mark under magnification. Do you notice any doubling or slight displacement? If so, you might have a rare variety. Also, check the surface for clean, glossy fields free from scratches or spots. If your penny looks nearly new and has that glowing copper red tone, it's worth getting professionally graded. A small investment in certification can make a big difference in resale value. And here's a tip: keep your coins in protective holders or flips to prevent further oxidation. The more original the color, the higher the value stays. Collectors often store these coins in temperature-controlled environments to preserve that mint brilliance. Even a fingerprint or a drop of moisture can reduce a coin's grade, so handle them with care. Now, if you're wondering where people actually find these rare gems, it's not always in fancy auctions. Some lucky individuals have discovered them in old coin jars, inherited collections, or estate sales. You never know what's hiding in a forgotten piggy bank or a family heirloom passed down from the 1950s. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting, the thrill of uncovering a piece of history that others overlooked. Another fascinating detail is how the Lincoln Wheat Penny series connects generations. For many collectors, it's the very first coin they start with, a bridge between childhood curiosity and lifelong passion. And among all those years, the 1952 D stands out as a symbol of that golden post-war era when every penny told a story. Each tiny imperfection, each shade of copper, carries echoes of a time when America was rebuilding, when people carried hope, and a few of these pennies in their pockets. So, the next time you come across an old wheat penny, take a closer look. Check the year. If it says 1952 with a little D below it, don't just toss it aside. You might be holding a rare relic of mid-century minting excellence, a coin that connects history, artistry, and fortune. Because while most people see just 1 cent, collectors see craftsmanship, scarcity, and value, a tiny piece of metal that has survived decades to tell its tale. From its copper fields to its faint mint mark, the 1952 D Lincoln Wheat Penny continues to captivate treasure hunters and historians alike. It's not just a coin, it's a time capsule, a reminder that even the smallest things can carry the biggest stories. And in some cases, those stories are worth far more than you'd ever expect. Because the most pristine, rare, and perfectly preserved 1952 D Lincoln Wheat Penny ever recorded sold for a staggering $46,534. Yes, you heard that right. $46,534 for a single 1-cent coin. So, check your coins, dig through your drawers, and look again at that old jar sitting on the shelf. You might just be holding a piece of history that's worth a fortune. Thanks for watching World Information HD, where knowledge truly pays off. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss out on more amazing stories about rare coins and hidden treasures. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and maybe, just maybe, you'll uncover the next penny worth thousands. Have you ever wondered if that old, dusty Lincoln Wheat Penny sitting in your drawer could actually be worth a fortune? Well, you might be surprised to learn that one very specific penny, the 1955 D mint mark Lincoln Wheat cent, has become a remarkable piece of American numismatic history. Today, we're diving deep into the world of this incredible coin, how it was made, why it's so special, and just how much collectors are willing to pay for it today. So grab your magnifying glass, because by the end of this video, you might just want to check every penny you own. Let's begin with a bit of background. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series started all the way back in 1909, marking the centennial of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait, Lincoln's face on the obverse, and 2 stalks of wheat on the reverse, symbolizing prosperity and agricultural strength. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it instantly became one of the most recognizable and beloved coins in U.S. history. Now, fast forward to the mid-1950s. The year is 1955, and the Denver Mint, known for stamping coins with the famous D mint mark, was hard at work producing billions of Lincoln Wheat cents for circulation. But during this year, something about the Denver minting process created a version of the penny that has captured the imagination of collectors for decades. The 1955 D Lincoln cent has become famous not for a dramatic era like its Philadelphia cousin, the famous 1955 double die, but for its rarity, quality, and mysterious variations in strike that make it highly collectible. To understand its importance, let's talk about the minting process itself. Every coin begins as a blank copper planchet, which is then pressed by powerful dies that imprint the familiar Lincoln design on one side and the wheat ears on the other. But during the 1950s, the Denver Mint had issues with die wear and die polishing. Some coins struck during this period displayed subtle imperfections, weakly struck details, slightly off-center features, and even faint die cracks. Far from being defects, these quirks now make certain 1955 D Lincoln cents stand out as valuable collector's pieces. The 1955 D penny is composed primarily of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it that classic reddish-brown tone that collectors love. Over time, as these coins circulated, their colors changed based on exposure to air, moisture, and temperature. Some toned beautifully, developing rich hues of red, orange, or even blue. Others darkened with age, turning chocolate brown or black. To coin collectors, or numismatists, This natural patina can dramatically affect the coin's value. A bright, uncirculated red specimen is worth many times more than a worn, brown one. Now, what truly makes this coin stand out is not just its age or beauty, but its place in American coin collecting culture. By the 1950s, collecting Lincoln cents had become a national pastime. Children, adults, and hobbyists all searched their pocket change hoping to complete their wheat cent albums. The 1955 D was part of that dream. Millions of these coins were struck, yet very few survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. The reason? Most people never thought twice about them. They were used for candy, bus fares, and small purchases, and almost all of them disappeared into circulation. Decades later, collectors started realizing how few flawless examples of the 1955 D wheat penny remained. Coins that survived untouched, often sealed in bank rolls or mint sets, became treasures. Even more fascinating is that the Denver Mint's production quality during that period created minor variations that make each coin slightly unique. Some have strong mint luster, others have soft or blurry details. And when you combine rarity, condition, and history, that's when a penny turns into gold for collectors. Another reason the 1955 D penny stands out is because it sits in the shadow of one of the most famous coin eras ever, the 1955 double-die penny from Philadelphia. Many collectors chasing that legend eventually discovered the Denver version as a worthy alternative, affordable in low grades, yet valuable in high ones. The fascination with all 1955 cents grew, especially among those who wanted to own something tangible from that year's minting history. Let's take a closer look at how collectors judge these coins. When experts evaluate a Lincoln cent, they use a grading scale from 1 to 70. A grade of 1 means the coin is barely recognizable, while a grade of 70 means it's in perfect, flawless condition. Coins that are uncirculated or mint state, those graded between MS60 and MS70, are the real stars of the show. For the 1955 D Lincoln Wheat Penny, coins graded MS65 and above are extremely scarce. These display sharp details in Lincoln's hair and beard, a clear, D mint mark, and vibrant red coloration with full mint luster. Collectors are willing to pay extraordinary prices for these pristine examples. Meanwhile, lower-grade coins that have circulated can still hold good value, depending on their color and eye appeal. Red-brown or brown examples in higher mint state grades can also fetch impressive sums. You might be wondering, what's so special about a small copper coin that weighs just over 3 grams? Well, it's not just a piece of metal. It's a frozen moment in American history. Every scratch, every mark tells a story. Think about it. This coin might have passed through countless hands since 1955, used in diners, gas stations, and movie theaters during the golden age of America. Some of these pennies might have even been carried by soldiers, teachers, or farmers, tiny witnesses to an era long gone. There's also a certain beauty in the design itself. On the obverse, you see Lincoln's calm and resolute expression, a symbol of strength and unity. The reverse, featuring those twin wheat stalks, has become iconic in American coinage. It's simple yet meaningful, representing both growth and the nation's roots. Collectors love the wheat design, which ended in 1958, making the 1955 D one of the last years to feature this beloved look before the reverse was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. As the decades rolled on, coin collecting evolved into a serious investment hobby. Rare coins began trading like art, attracting enthusiasts and investors from around the world. Auction houses started listing these small copper treasures for astonishing amounts, especially if they were certified by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC. When a coin like the 1955 D wheat penny is authenticated and graded, its value skyrockets because collectors know exactly what they're getting. There have been cases where seemingly ordinary wheat pennies sold for incredible sums. Some collectors discovered rare die varieties or exceptionally high-grade examples in old jars or inherited collections. These coins, especially the 1955 D in pristine red mint condition, are now fetching record-breaking prices. It's the kind of discovery that makes your heart race, realizing that a penny you've overlooked for decades could change your life overnight. It's also fascinating to note how public interest in rare coins has surged in recent years. Online platforms, coin shows, and YouTube channels have sparked new excitement, encouraging millions to check their pocket change again. People who once ignored small cents are now hunting for these historical gems. The 1955 Wheat penny, in particular, continues to inspire that sense of discovery, the thrill of uncovering something rare, valuable, and steeped in history. Imagine finding one in a forgotten jar or at the bottom of a box in your attic. Imagine brushing off the dust, noticing the year 1955, and spotting that tiny D beneath the date. Your curiosity kicks in, you search online, compare it to images, and suddenly realize you might be holding something far more precious than you thought. That's the magic of coin collecting. It connects you to the past in a way few other hobbies can. Even professional collectors and historians agree that the 1955 penny remains a cornerstone of mid-20th century U.S. coinage. Its enduring appeal lies in its combination of scarcity, quality, and cultural resonance. For anyone passionate about coins, this is a must-have piece, a small yet mighty representation of America's minting legacy. So, if you ever come across a 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny, take a moment to look closely. Examine its color, its shine, its details. Check for that strong red luster or crisp strike. Because you never know, you might be looking at a coin that's far more valuable than a single cent. After all, the right 1955 mint mark Lincoln Wheat penny, in exceptional mint state red condition, has been known to sell for as much as $39,000.